Well, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Courduff, and I'm so happy that you've joined us today for this webinar on accessibility within mobile devices. I have a lot to get through in an hour, so I'm going to jump right in. What we're going to talk about today is becoming familiar with some of the accessibility features in iOS and Android-based devices, and talk briefly about some easy implementation ideas that could work with your teaching. But before we do that, I want to kind of frame this for us, because I think that in the history of technology, we have never had such a deep resource of access for students or people with severe disabilities. Check this out.
Hi, I'm first of all, I want to thank you for so playing. I can't walk with my hand. I almost playing my own business.
So this is Christopher Hills, and he's using a switch at the back of his head to access his computer, and he runs a film editing business using switch control and other accessibility features that are found in iOS devices.
It's going to meaning
So to provide a frame, some context around this, even 10 years ago, people with extreme disabilities were literally trapped in their own bodies. And the only way that they could communicate was through big, expensive devices. And now what the technology has done is made the accessibility features free and available to all people, no matter what the disability. And what they're finding is all of these amazing minds that have been trapped in bodies for years. You might not use any of the tools that I review today personally, but life has a funny way of bringing people across your path, and you'll know something that you can share with someone else. And the purpose of this presentation is just to give you knowledge, because knowledge is power, and with that knowledge you can help others really be able to communicate and navigate through the world. So there are a lot of updates with both Android and iOS devices, and I did some research for those of you who are Android users. TalkBack is a pre-installed screen reader. It's been around forever. Explore by Touch is similar to VoiceOver, and we'll be going over that in just a few minutes. And there are accessibility features that modify display and sound settings. New to Android is Braille back, and that's Braille support, like attaching a Braille keyboard to a device in order for a person with blindness or low vision to be able to create Braille, and increased switch access. So I contacted a colleague of mine, Luis Perez, who's huge on Twitter and a huge accessibility expert. And I asked him about iOS versus Android, and he says still that iOS is taking the lead in accessibility and Android is coming now close behind, a lot closer than it was even a year ago. I've provided accessibility overviews for you in the 2 handouts that were emailed to you earlier in the week, and also as a link to this presentation. So if you are an Android user and want to go deeper into what's out there, it varies device to device, but you do have those resources available to you. So in iOS 10, it's incredible what's come out. It's mind-blowing. Most things are support for vision and support for interaction. So, for example, they now have a magnifier, which I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. There are crazy display accommodations now that you can use color filters and invert colors, and there's a really deep enhanced features too. I like my presentations to be interactive, guys, and so if you have a mobile device, if you have a phone or an iPad or an Android device, I would love for you to follow along. And also, if you have questions during the presentation about certain tools, go ahead and put them into chat, and Deb and I will work together to make sure that those questions get answered in a timely manner. Okay, here we go. So, and if we have time at the end, there is so much new cool stuff in iMessages. You can now talk to Siri without her being plugged into a power outlet. All you need to do is say, "Hey Siri," and she'll come up. And I'm hoping she won't on my phone right now because it's right here. You can access the camera from the lock screen, and you can also use Siri to search for hard-to-find photos and photos that are related to each other. Okay, so how do you get there? Let's dig right in. So go to the Settings tab on your device, hit Settings, and then about in the middle you'll notice a General. So go to General, and from there click Accessibility. I want to encourage you all to follow along so that you can really interact with this on your own device. Okay, you're all there? So first we're going to go over some features in Vision. So you'll notice at the top, in Vision there's VoiceOver, Zoom, Magnifier, that's new, Display Accommodations, that replaces Invert Colors, and good old-fashioned Speech, which I love. If you decide that you want to test out VoiceOver, before you do, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the Accessibility tab and make sure that you have VoiceOver checked as an accessibility shortcut. What VoiceOver does is, when it's enabled, any button you press on your device, it'll tell you what it is. So it's for people with low vision or blindness that can't see the screen, so they need to touch the screen and the device talks to them. The problem with VoiceOver is that some of the buttons on your device will get rearranged, and so people that are playing around with VoiceOver often get locked into their phone and the voice just keeps going and going. So if you make that accessibility shortcut enabled for VoiceOver, then when you triple click the home button, you can disable VoiceOver very easily and not be frustrated. All right, my favorite feature in VoiceOver is the ability to attach now a Braille keyboard. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you a little video on how a teacher has used a enabled Braille keyboard to help her students learn how to type Braille right onto the iPad. When you're watching this video, you'll notice that the iPad is actually on its side in landscape, and the home button is to the right.
This is Andrea, and today I'm going to be demonstrating to you how, as a teacher or as a parent, you can create Braille for your student without actually having to write it. How we're going to do that is I've connected the iPad 2 here to this Refreshable Braille 18, which is from APH, and it is a refreshable Braille display connected via Bluetooth. What I'm able to do here is, as a teacher, I might be doing reading, and say we're only going to be working on 5 words today. So I'm going to open up Notepad, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to type in my 5 words, one of them being can. I'm going to work on the word the, read, run, and let's pick one more, set. Now that I'm finished, I'm going to move my cursor back up here to the beginning over here and turn off my keyboard. And because I've set the triple click home
audio feedback
as a
between
toggle
your
feature to
mic
turn
and
VoiceOver on and
the,
off, I can simply turn on the VoiceOver feature
the
by
audio
hitting my
coming
home
on your
button 3
device.
times. 1, 2, 3.
VoiceOver on. Landscape. Home button to the right. Notes. Accounts.
You'll notice
Okay, I
that
muted my
VoiceOver
phone,
turns
but I
on,
unmuted it
and in
to talk
addition
to
to
you.
VoiceOver turning on, my Braille display also starts displaying Braille, or whatever the VoiceOver cursor is reading. Now, because we're over here,
Your
and
voice
as a
is
teacher,
still
I don't
coming
know
through.
all of the commands to make the VoiceOver cursor go over, I'm simply going to go over here and tap where I want it to start reading, and it will say the word can. You also know that on my Braille display, it will also read the word can and or display it in Braille. Since I'm going to be instructing this student on how to read Braille or read the word can, I don't want it to talk to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable the speech on VoiceOver. It doesn't turn VoiceOver off, it simply makes it stop talking. So in order to do that, I'm going to take 3 fingers and I'm going to tap twice.
Speech off.
And it merely says speech off. Now I'm over here at the word can, and can will be displayed over here on my Braille display, and you'll notice that it says capital C-A-N for can. Now the student would simply go ahead and read that word to me, and when I would like the student to read the next word, being a regular classroom teacher, I'm just going to simply go over here and I'm going to press the word the, and the word the now shows up on my Braille display, in which I will have the student read the word the. I think this is a pretty good usable tool for both parents and teachers, being that you're now able to create Braille and have your student read Braille simply by typing yourself. You could have the student by turning on and off. So let's see here. I'm going to go to turn VoiceOver off, and you'll notice that VoiceOver is now off. So if I want to come back and put in more words or add more features, I can do S-A and then T, and then I just turn it off, triple click home
VoiceOver
to turn
on.
VoiceOver back on,
Landscape.
and I can simply tap and hold the word that I want. You'll notice that once I turn VoiceOver off, it will turn that speech back on. So I'm going to tap it again
Speech off.
with 3-finger double tap just to turn it off, and I'm going to move the cursor over here, and it'll say can. And then I can have it go S-A-T. Gives us a little more space for those beginning readers so that they're able to go ahead and actually sound out the word and not be confused by too many contractions being together. Therefore, that's pretty much my demonstration for how you can go ahead and create a document in print and have your student be able to read it in Braille using both the iPad 2 and the Refreshable Braille 18.
All right, so I unmuted my mic so that you don't hear the presentation twice during videos. Sorry about that, everyone. I see that there's a question, can you create a Braille textbook? I don't know the answer to that, but I can certainly look into it for you. at the end of the presentation, my email address is there. And if you just want to post that question to me, I'll ask around because I can do that. I've also added a list or a massive spreadsheet that I've been developing out for a couple of years now, and one of the tabs in that are resources for assistive technology. I want to encourage you to not be afraid to post your questions on Twitter, because Twitter has a huge presence for accessibility and assistive technology. So use those resources. Twitter is huge. Facebook is huge for special education and accessibility. So let's continue on. If you're in your settings and you're in accessibility, you'll notice that these are standard accessibility features that they've been around since iOS 5. Larger text, bold text, button shapes, increased contrast, reduce motion, and on-off labels. But quickly to review, larger text, just if you click that, you'll see a scroller that goes side to side, and you can make the text larger or smaller in your display. Bold text I don't play with because it asks to change the settings of my device, and that usually means that I'm not going to be able to get back into something. But it does enable the text to become bold, so it increases readability. Button shapes has been around for quite a while, but go ahead and if you click on button shapes and look at the word general on your device, and then click it off, and then click it back on, you'll notice that a gray arrow appears around the word general up here when you turn on and off button shapes. Well, that's important because if you can't see blue, you wouldn't know that general was an actual hyperlink to something else in your device. Button shapes puts gray boxes around anything on the device that's actually a button. So this is really helpful to those with color blindness. Another great help for those with color blindness is the on and off labels down at the very bottom. If you turn that button on, you'll notice that there will be lines next to the buttons that are enabled and circles next to the buttons that are off. So go ahead and turn that on and off. And you'll notice that the lines and circles appear when on-off labels is enabled, and they go away when the on-off labels is not enabled. Again, if you can't see green, you're not going to know if a button is on or off unless you can remember off to the left and on is to the right, and that's beyond my, I can't remember that. So maybe you wouldn't either. All right. So keep going. So Magnifier, this is new. If you turn on, well, actually, you have to go down and turn off reduce motion here. You turn off reduce motion right here. So go ahead and do that. And then turn on the magnifier. Once it's on, go ahead and triple click the home button on your device, and the camera will be enabled and it will turn into a magnification device. So go ahead and play with that real quick. What do you think? Isn't that kind of cool? You can make, it magnifies documents that you're, so I have in front of me like a DMV thing right here, and the print is super small. And if I wanted to read it, I turn the magnifier on and boom, I can read the print. Okay. Questions? It's different from using the camera because the magnifier, you don't have to reverse the camera, and you're able to scroll the magnifier bigger or smaller. I know you can do that with, no, you can't do that with the camera. So it enables you to be able to scroll to the right or to the left to increase the magnifiers, increase how much the magnifier magnifies or not. Does that answer your question? There's a yellow scroll. It also, you can go grayscale with the magnifier, you can lock the magnifier, and you can have a flash with the magnifier, which increases the brightness. So it's a more robust system than using the phone, and you don't run the risk of accidentally taking a lot of pictures that you didn't mean to take. There's that. it's more bells and whistles, but some of these things are just really cool if you have low vision. My husband has low vision, and so he uses a lot of the accessibility features, not as many as I would like, honestly, but, you know, when people with low vision need to access certain things and the regular view doesn't work, these accessibility features really come in handy. All right, so we used to have the feature called Invert Colors, and that got really expanded in iOS 10 to display accommodations. So if you tap on display accommodations, now Invert Colors is actually one of many choices in that screen. Here's Invert Colors, and you see when the colors are inverted, the white background goes to black background, and the black text goes to white or colored text. Literally, it becomes a negative. So if you have like a student with autism who has a tough time reading black print on white background, and that really elevates or aggravates their mood, you can use Invert Colors, and that might work. Also, a new one is color filters and reduce white point. So let me show you those. So color filters gives you 4 options. You can literally now turn the background on your device to any one of the colors on these colored pencils when you enable colored filters. And if you look below, you can turn the device grayscale, a red-green filter, a green-red filter, a blue-yellow filter, and if those aren't enough options for you, you can hit color tint, which enables you to change the hue and the intensity of the background of the device. Again, lots and lots of options, and you might never use any of them, but somebody will cross your path that will have trouble reading on the device, and some of these accessibility features might just be perfect for them, and they're free and they're included instead of buying a really expensive program, which I'm not a fan of, buying things when you can get them for free. Okay, so that's display accommodations. Next up is reduce white point. So what that does is if you enable reduce white point, you can literally change, this is the normal screen, and you can literally make the screen darker by playing with this toggle switch in reduce white point. Again, it's a feature that is useful if the brightness of the device is bothersome. All right, quick review. Zoom, which has been there for a long time. If you enable Zoom and then you double tap on the device with 3 fingers, it will zoom whatever you're watching, whatever you're looking at or trying to access on your device. Now you say, but I could pinch, and I can pinch, but in some of the pages that you access on a device or a cell phone, the pinch feature doesn't work, and in that case, the zoom feature works. Absolutely, the recording will be at the AbleNet website. Okay, large dynamic type, I went over this really quickly. The slider, you can move it bigger or smaller to increase or decrease font size, not new but a good reminder, and speak selection. So we're moving down into speech now. So what speak selection does is it enables you, go on into speak selection. If you enable speak selection here, then go into maybe your notes. So this is a picture of my notes app on my device. So I press on, if I press with my finger on the word Twitter, I get an option to select all, paste, or many other things here. So once I've selected what I want spoken to me, I can hit speak sentence and it will read that out loud for me. Speak selection is great if you want to have your email read aloud to you in the car while you're driving. It'll work in your notes app. It'll work on it'll work in iBooks. It just reads whatever you choose for it to read out loud. Now, speak screen is a little different. So here's a screenshot. And what you do with speak screen is you swipe from the top of your device down, open up your notes app, or somewhere where you have text, everyone. You swipe down with 2 fingers, and this dialog box comes up, okay? So you can, this is play, and it'll start reading to you, and you can hit pause. You can fast forward on the screen. You can back up on the screen. You can make the text read louder or more slow, more quickly or more slowly for you. And there's a sentence, it'll highlight sentences. Additionally, there's a couple dozen new voices. So if you're annoyed with the regular voice, there's Samantha, which is a more normal voice, and Alex, which is a more normal, natural-sounding voice, if those are better. Speak to Screen is not something that I would leave enabled all the time, because I have swiped down on my phone several times and it starts talking out loud in places where I don't want it to talk out loud, like the movies. It's embarrassing. So you really don't want to leave that enabled, but it's a great feature if you just don't have time to read it, but you just want to hear it, or you're tired. Scroll down with 2 fingers and Speak Screen will come up. All right. One last thing in this part is now they have typing feedback. So if you enable these, the device will literally read out characters, hints of characters. It'll speak words. It'll work as word prediction. So if you want to tap on a word, and then a battery of choices will come up, and you can hear them spoken. Again, you might never use this, but somebody in your life might. You might have a student that this really benefits. And this is great for English language learners because it gives them that audio feedback on what they're looking at. All right, so now we're going to get into some other pretty amazing updates with accessibility. In interaction, in switch control came out in iOS 7, and every release it gets better and better and better. And for those of you who don't really know what a switch is, it's a button that you press that gives you access to the different apps or different features on the device. Within interaction, there's switch control, there's assistive touch, and there's touch accommodation. So we're going to look at switch control first. If you enable it, you can attach external switches. Your iPad can be a switch. You can really tailor in how quickly you want the switch control to scan between applications. Recipes is new. It enables you to literally create a gesture where if you're in iBooks, it will turn a page for you. And tap in the middle of the screen. Just a lot. So I'm going to show you a little video that provides some context to switch control. All right. Is there a link to this, Deb?
There should be.
It doesn't. Maybe that's just a screenshot. Okay, so you see Christopher Hills is here. No, this is actually a video, but I'm not sure why the link isn't here. Here. No, this one isn't here either. Hold on a minute.
I'm not sure what happened to those videos, Jennifer.
That's okay. Hold on just a second. We can make it happen.
If you have them on your desktop, you could share that.
I am. I'm getting there right now. Trying to load it. Here we go. Thanks for your patience, guys. All right, I'm going to share my desktop. And I'll leave my phone on so that you can hear it through my phone.
Christopher Hills, quadriplegic since a birth accident left him profoundly disabled with cerebral palsy. From his wheelchair, he will now express to you how he feels about his disability. Christopher uses a head switch to access switch control, which is Apple's accessibility feature built into all Macs and iOS devices. With this, he has access to online university studies in video production. He has gained Apple certification in Final Cut Pro 10 and now runs his own video editing business. He has done work for people all around the world. He has recently completed a promotional video for the Clinical Skills Development Service at Queensland Health. Switch control makes it simpler for people with all levels of ability to use their computers and devices. Christopher and Canadian physicist Ross Lockwood are collaborating on the development of a prototype system using switch control to enable astronauts to access iOS devices from a bulky spacesuit.
I recruited a friend named Christopher Hills who helped me develop a new type of interface using some of the accessibility options in iOS and on the iPad. With the idea of using switch control as an interface for an astronaut controlling the computer inside of their spacesuit, I've invented a switch control interface that looks like a glove.
Ross's genius for invention and Christopher's mastery of switch access combined with Apple's accessible operating systems make this exciting innovation possible.
He's a huge proponent for people with severe disabilities, and he's just the biggest cheerleader ever, an enabler for others. So if you want to follow him on Twitter or there's a huge battery of YouTube videos as well that you might find useful to show colleagues or friends or others who work with people with severe disabilities. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, I think. There we go. There we are, and now we're back. Any questions on this? So there's some pretty cool updates that I want to show you, and then we're going to get into interaction. Let me show you this one. Again, I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll come back to looking at other things. And again, you have links to all these videos in the presentation that will be mailed to you. Or has been and will be again.
Since we last made a video, not too much has changed with switch accessibility. What? Yes, that's right. Except now, long press gives shortcuts to actions like this, her, and that. Recipes mean you can now read like that, scroll like this, play games like this, and that. If you flip this switch, you'll type faster. Don't like auto scanning, but prefer using one switch? Try this feature and ensure to set dwell time to suit you. Manual scanning with a single switch. See this button? It makes it way easier to move this app over here, just like that. Select Spotlight Search from the device menu, and you'll see your commonly used apps. Handy. With platform switching, you can use switch control to control other devices. So, control iPhone with a Mac, or iPad with an iPhone, or Apple TV with an iPad. You get the point.
So, you might not ever use these features, but you'll know somebody who could. He has a switch that's, it's a button that is on his headrest, and he uses the switch via that button on the headrest at the back of his head. That's a good question. Yes. You scan, and then Christopher hits the button, and he makes the selection. It's really come up extremely, it just keeps getting more and more enhanced with every iteration of iOS. When it first came out in 7, it was a little bit clunky, but now it's really streamlining very well. How are the switches connected? You can use, actually, the iPad. You can have a button that's connected via Bluetooth. You can use your iPad as a switch. You can use your phone as a switch. You can use the camera on the iPad as a switch. There's a lot of different ways to connect in. One thing, I follow Christopher Hills on Twitter because whenever anything new comes out, he's the first one to really take it down to brass tacks and let you know if it's worth bothering with or not. And to remind you, this is all included in iOS. You're not paying one extra dime for this level of accessibility. So it's great things to know about, to be able to share. So the next feature that's very cool and used by many middle schoolers that I know, honestly, is Assistive Touch. So go into your device, go back into Settings, go into Accessibility, scroll down, and go to Assistive Touch. Thanks, Daniela. Great information. Turn on Assistive. So what Assistive Touch does, it allows you to, or your student, to interact with the entire device using a stylus strapped to the head or strapped to the arm or just one single finger. So go in and hit Assistive Touch and turn it on. And when you turn it on, you'll notice a little gray square appears. See that? You should have one that looks just like that. Okay? In Assistive Touch, you'll notice that there are, you can accommodate by touch. You can enable hold duration, which allows you to, your device allows you to, it reads how long you want to hold down a button or not, and if you're hitting the device 2 or more times accidentally, it'll ignore those repeats. Okay, Kara, before I go, Christopher Hill, and I have links to his YouTube videos at the end, and also Luis Perez. They're wonderful, and they're a lot of valuable information, and they're very generous with their time. All right, let me send this out real quick. There you go. So go to your Assistive Touch, and you'll notice what comes up when you enable it. If you click on, again, that little gray box right here, click on that, you should see options come up. So with one touch, you can access your notification center, your entire device, the control center. You can customize a gesture, you can enable Siri, and you can enable the home button. So I've customized mine to show 6 options, but notice that the icons down at the bottom, you can add more icons on your home, or you can take away and add less, have less. So one of the things that's really cool is you can make your own gesture. So if you go and click on that little gray button again, and then get out of there, actually. No. Go to Custom. Oh, it's in Custom Gestures. So I'm going to go back. You're going to go here to create a new gesture. So go ahead and click that. And then I did a screenshot of, I just took my finger and swiped down because I want to, no, actually it was a swipe up because I want the device to swipe up to close out apps. So you swipe up, and then the next screen you see you're going to name it. So you're going to do this movement, and then a save box will come up, and you're going to name it swipe up. And then from there, you're going to go into, it'll show up in your custom gestures. And if you click on the swipe up that you just created, a little black circle will appear on your device. And if you just touch that, it will swipe up on your device. You can create a swipe down. You can create pinches. You can have the device have one finger function as 2 fingers, as 3 fingers, as 4 fingers. There's a ton that you can do with this. Most middle schoolers I know lose their home buttons, because I used to be a middle school teacher. They lose their home buttons really quickly. They break. So they use Assistive Touch to be the home button for them. So if your home button doesn't work, never fear. You can enable Assistive Touch and your home button will work for you. So hearing options. We're doing pretty good on time. Within the device now, you can actually enable, you can connect Bluetooth hearing aids to your device, your phone typically, and so that you will hear your phone calls literally in your Bluetooth hearing aids. Couple things. You have to have Bluetooth-enabled hearing aids. You have to have the Bluetooth connected to the device and the hearing aids in order for that to work. My mom just got Bluetooth-enabled hearing aids, and she has had to work with the doctor to learn how to connect the hearing aid to the device, and so it will speak clearly. So there's a little bit of a learning curve involved there. But on the other side of that learning curve, if you've ever been on the phone with someone that says what all the time, and you end up feeling a little annoyed because you have to repeat yourself, I thought about that for a while, and then I thought, you know, how annoying must it be for that person who can't really hear very well through their phone, and how tiring that must be to say what all the time. So this is just a really kind thing to give people with hearing loss access to clear hearing on their device. Another feature that's great in hearing options is it'll flash if you have a phone call coming in. You can set it to mono audio. So if you look at your earbuds, one is actually a left and one is actually a right. So hopefully you're putting the right earbud in your right ear and the left earbud in your left ear. But the noises that are coming into your head through your earbuds, some of the sounds come in the right one and some of the sounds come in the left one, similar to what happens when you're sitting in a movie theater. Think about it that way. So some people cannot have different information coming into different ears, either because they only have hearing in one ear or because that causes a lot of confusion to them in their brains. So if you enable mono audio, all of the sound comes into both ears, which is really helpful if you've got some kind of a hearing disorder where you cannot have different things coming in to different ears. You can enable phone noise cancellation, which really just decreases the amount of background noise that you hear. And you can have more sound coming into the left earbud or into the right earbud by simply scrolling back and forth on this scroll bar. I'm so glad, Juanita. My mom is really thrilled with it too. And so many years, so many conversations, what, and now it's just so much better. It's so good. These things are just good. All right, so moving on quickly, guided access has been around for a really long time now, since iOS 5. Essentially, if you don't know what guided access is, it literally locks a student into an app. So it increases student engagement by making sure that they stay in a certain app as long as you want them in that app. As you know, a lot of students with autism like to just go wherever they want to go on their device, and guided access kind of locks them into that. You can set it up using a passcode. You can set a timer so it unlocks the app after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or you can unlock it now with a touch passcode, similarly to the way you do that on your phone you can set your thumb or your forefinger to unlock your phone. So to enable guided access, you go in and enable guided access, and you can tailor it to putting a passcode in, a time limit, and you want to enable accessibility shortcuts. So new features in guided access are now there's a sleep and wake button. There's volume buttons where you can turn the volume up or down. You can disable the volume when you have a student in an app. You can disable or enable motion if they're playing a game. You can disable or enable keyboards. You can disable or enable the touch feature, and you can set a time limit with the app. So just real quick, when you're in guided access, when you start it, you'll set up a passcode. Please set up a passcode that you can remember so that you can get out of it. Every time a student puts a passcode in incorrectly, guided access will lock them out of it longer. So if they put in a passcode incorrectly the first time, it'll lock them out for 10 seconds. And then the second time, it'll lock them out for 20 seconds. And in the third attempt, it'll lock them out for 40 seconds. And it'll just increase the amount of time you are locked out. So make sure that you put in a passcode that you can remember, or you'll be locked out for a while. You enable guided access, and then these are the buttons that appear, so you can start it from the top right. You can disable or enable the motion, the touch, hardware buttons, or you can cancel guided access using this button here. Another neat feature with guided access is that you can literally take your finger and circle certain parts of the screen that you want grayed out. And those parts of the screen will be disabled for your students until they're out of guided access. Now, I've noticed that some challenges with this is that if I'm not on a screen where this section is consistently present, sometimes what happens is that a grayed out section isn't worth being grayed out because it's a different place on the screen. So you start guided access, then they have to triple click home to get out, putting in a passcode, setting a time limit, or using touch, and then you're out. So to finish up, real quick, just because I thought this was really neat, there's some really great features in iMessage. I'm going to show you a quick little video because it's just really great little features. Hold on, get into your iMessage screen, please. That's just a text message. So if you want to amaze and confuse people that you love, thought this was a little added bonus fun.
I've made it my mission to spotlight.
I need to go back here and share my screen and get a quick little advertisement.
Justice anywhere it happens. And now I'm bringing that passion to hate.
Okay, let's have some fun with our iPhone today. This is for iOS 10, the latest version of iOS, and I'm going to show you how to have some fun in text messaging. So what you want to do first is go to Settings. Then we're going to go down to the General Settings. Scroll down to Accessibility. Under Accessibility, scroll down until you see Reduce Motion. Reduce Motion, we want to turn to off. So just click on that. If it's on, turn it to off. Now, that's the main part. That's the big settings, okay? Now, what we want to do is jump into text messaging. We're going to jump into, I'm going to make a new text message. I'm going to text myself so people don't think I'm crazy when I do this. So I'm going to text myself right there, okay? Now, I'm going to start typing and say, iOS fun. Okay, here's the key, so beware, so hold tight. What you want to do is long press on the send button. The arrow going up, you want to hold, press and hold. Once you do that, you're going to get some options here. You can see here on the top here, there's bubble or screen. Screen has some on-screen effects. There's a balloon. They've got some confetti, which is fun. What is that little light show? Do a little fireworks action. And we have a little shooting star, which is very nice. So these are all kind of cool little touches, just something a little extra. You can see your message. iOS Fun is there. When you're ready to send, you can hit the blue up arrow to send. Or if you want to, let's check out the other effects here. This is the bubble effect. So what we're going to do here, if we hit slam, you can see it's a little harsh. If you missed that, let's go back to slam. Boom. Loud. Basically, you're screaming at somebody. Now we're going to go a little gentle. That's just a little subtle animation, which is kind of nice. And the last one here is invisible ink. So whenever you type there, what people need to do when they get it is just press on it, and your message will come through like invisible ink.
That's just a little fun. I've also included in the presentation a link to an 8-minute video on the 46 greatest new features in iOS 10 for anyone who's interested. We got about 5 minutes, so I want to make sure I give time for questions. Some resources for you to help you along. The Sett Framework by Joy Zabala, Student Environment, Task, and Tools. So as you're working with your kiddos, you really want to focus on the student and their learning goal. And then the environment they're in. Where are they learning? What kind of resources do they have around them? Then what is the task? What's the learning activity at hand? And then finally, what assistive technology tool is useful for them to complete the task in the environment that the student is placed. So Sett is a great framework and has a lot of free documentation for every step of the assistive technology process. remember, this is a lot of information, and I know that. So what has worked for me and for my students is I just remind them to stay simple. Try one thing at a time. Don't try to learn all of it at once, because it just becomes overwhelming and then you won't learn any of it. I have also included some resources for iOS 10 on the presentation, the Twitter resources for Luis Perez, as some of you have asked about, and some really great newly developed resources for Android devices. And then some assistive technology resources through ISTE, QUIET, the Quality Indicators for Assistive Technology, and the Assistive Technology Coalition. Those are some really great resources for you. And here's my contact information. So if you have another question, or if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm constantly tweeting out new accessibility things as I find them. Any last-minute questions? We've got about 3 minutes. Michelle Thomas said, I love the addition of the Sett. Yeah, I love the Sett. And the Sett, it blows me away because it's a very robust set of documentations that it involves a team approach for really addressing assistive technology resources from day one all the way through the evaluation process. After the presentation, we'll be sending out a copy of this presentation along with 2 handouts I've developed for you that help with you getting your brain around some of the assistive technology resources, and also links to all of the video presentation in case you'd like to share this out with a colleague or a friend. Where would you consider a good resource for Android information? Yes, I did do some investigating on Android. There's many platforms for Android, and the accessibility features vary vastly from platform to platform. However, I found some really great newly developed resources for you, and those are on slide 50. They're linked in there, and they are also available on that handout that came to you on email and will be resent out. That includes all the links to everything in this presentation. Please feel free to share with colleagues and with friends. And don't hesitate to shoot me an email if you have a question. This is an area of passion for me, and I really love helping out. Thank you all again for taking an hour of your afternoon to learn more about accessibility in mobile devices. It's been my pleasure to facilitate this conversation there, and they were able